there is an extraordinary feature in this case that Israel's political leaders, military commanders, and persons holding official positions have systematically and in explicit terms declared their genocidal intent. And these statements are then repeated by soldiers on the ground in Gaza as they engage in the destruction of Palestinians and the physical infrastructure of Gaza. Prime Minister Netanyahu, in his address to the Israeli forces on 28 October 2023, preparing for the invasion of Gaza, urged the soldiers to remember what Amalek has done to you. This refers to the biblical command by God to Saul for the retaliatory destruction of an entire group of people known as the Amalekites, put to death men and women, children and infants, cattle and sheep, camels and donkeys. The genocidal invocation to Amalek was anything but idle. It was repeated by Mr. Netanyahu in a letter to the Israeli Armed Forces on 3 November 2023. Madam President, let the Prime Minister's words speak for themselves.
Today is the first day that the International Court of Justice is hearing arguments regarding the claims of genocide committed by Israel. If you get an opportunity, I highly recommend that you check out South Africa's opening statements where they dropped the greatest diss track we ever seen, exposing Israel for their crime and intent to commit genocide. South Africa hit them up. As someone who's been following the Israel-Palestine conflict for a long time, it's very satisfying to see Israel finally being held accountable for their crime. It's even better when you realize that Israel supported the brutal apartheid of South Africa. Think about it like this. The same kids who lived under brutal South African apartheid that was supported by Israel grew up, learned the law, became lawyers, judges, and legal scholars, and now they're holding Israel accountable for their genocide and apartheid. So beautiful, man. So beautiful. So after South Africa dropped the hottest diss track that we ever seen in politics against Israel, surely Israel has a rock-solid legal argument against them, right? Right? And they're arguing that South Africa is complicit with Hamas. You know this is the International Court of Justice and not a Fox News court in Alabama, right? Thank God that Israel is so dumb and became so lazy because they was used to the United States protecting them. They became so lazy, they legitimately do not know how to defend their actions anymore, which makes it that much easier to go after these terrorists.
What's poppin'? My friends, my family, welcome back. We are officially a weekend to our Nick at Night season 2. Welcome back. We got a fantastic guest, a fantastic friend. We got Keaton for Dissidence. We'll be introducing him very soon. And I'm very excited, as you guys see in that video, because you guys know, like, this is not an issue that I started covering October 7th. Like, this is something that the Israel-Palestine issue was the issue that got me out of the Democratic Party. It's been something I've been extremely passionate about. And as someone who followed the Israel-Palestine issue, like I said in the video, I can't put in the words like what this means. Like, there was videos of the Palestinian people singing the South African national anthem in Gaza and in the West Bank. To have this moment of reckoning for Israel, and I'm going to cover here. Unfortunately, we got to tell the truth, man. It's about clarity. Disgusting. Like, if you think that the international criminal, if you think this court will be able to stop the genocide, that's not true. And I'm going to cover that here very soon. They have no way to stop the genocide. But it's still good to have someone in the international level standing up for the Palestinians. And it's crucial and for the International Court of Justice to get this right. I cannot stress this enough. Like, do you guys understand the consequences if they don't? Like, if Israel gets away with what they have done in Gaza, we completely change the rules of war. You understand? Do you understand the tragic consequences to humanity if Israel gets away scot-free, not just in the International Court of Justice, but period. If Israel gets away clean from this, fam, the Geneva Conventions have been officially ripped up. You guys understand that, right? If Israel gets away with this, we have normalized the bombing of hospitals, targeting of journalists, targeting of UN aid workers, targeting electricity, food, water. If Israel gets away with that, the floodgates is open, guys. It's open. If you have this Western chauvinist point of view, the worst of the worst gonna be able to exploit this, like we already seeing. With that said, I want to give my guest Keaton. I can run all day. I'm very interested in hearing our post-duopoly brother from Due Dissidence. You guys are doing amazing work. Welcome back to RBN, Keaton Weiss. Thanks for joining me once again, brother.
Pleasure. Thank you. Great to see you. Great to see you. And I'm glad I could be here tonight because I think it's really important, Nick, to remind you that Joe Biden's picks for the NLRB are really big. And I've been thinking about that all day. I haven't been able to get that out of my head all day. That's what I've been thinking about for these past few hours is, man, thank God it's Biden and not Trump.
Thank God for
those NLRB appointments,
Thank God for useless incrementalism, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank God for the Social Democrats and the Bernie Sanders left that sold out the Palestinian people with the devil's bargain that they're going to get something for themselves, what they did not get.
Well, that's why I thought it was really important. I mean, I'm glad you invited me here because I knew you were going to be going off about this. I knew you were going to be, animated about this. And I'm like, I should really be here to remind Nick about the NLRB appointments.
I always need someone to keep me grounded, down to earth. So
yeah, exactly.
So I appreciate your presence, and I also want to say
your passion.
Congratulations,
but,
you guys are
NLRB.
Man. Yeah. So congratulations! I saw you on Jimmy Dore on the Jimmy Show. How was that? Like that's a lot. You guys are hosting Jimmy Dore Show. That was big. So how'd that come about?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Jimmy asked Russell to fill in for him. He asked Russell a couple months ago. He said, I have to go, I have a family obligation, or it was a vacation. I think it's a vacation of some sort. He's not doing comedy on the road now. I think it's a personal trip. And he said, I'm going to be gone for from the 8th to the 15th. So he offered Russell the gig to go and fly out and do the show. And so Russell said, yeah, obviously, well, I'll do it. And so I've been able to just sort of sit in remotely as a sort of remote co-host. And it's been a lot of fun. We've had a blast. We did 2 shows so far. We're doing a show tomorrow. And Russell's going to be on all of next week as well. And then Jimmy's back on the 22nd.
Yeah, once again, congratulations. It was great to see, like, you have Savvy Sabs and you have Due Dissidence. Like, they're this wave, this new, like, vanguard of true media that is, like you guys getting, like, better numbers than, like, Kyle Kalinske and David Doe, which is fucking glorious. Like, if I see Savvy and Due Dissidence defeating Kyle Kalinske, there's an energy that's happening. The social democrat, secular talk, David Doe, weak, effeminate, beta.
Well, that's the NLRB. Like, that's why I made that joke at the beginning, because that's all that group really has to talk about, and that just becomes less relevant by the day. But obviously, RBN is a huge part of this, and you guys have helped us out tremendously along the way, and so we owe a lot of our success to you guys.
I want to get your thoughts on this because, like, I had a whole intro segment planned on obviously the International Court of Justice. We're still gonna cover that. I'll explain to you guys the importance. We then cover the countries that support it, the implications, and like I'm such an optimist. Like, you guys see how I was covering to, like, the lead up on this. I'm like, and this is a big moment. I'm explaining to you guys why this is a big moment, but I also want you guys grounded about the reality of what the struggle entails. Like, this will be just a start. Like, we would need the UN Security Council to officially vote to end the genocide. The International Court of Justice, they don't have the power, and who's on the UN Security Council that can veto? The United States. But this is still giant. Don't get me wrong, because there's still a lot to be very happy about what's going on, because we are seeing the state of Israel being exposed in a way that we have never seen in our life. Like, once again, we see Palestinians in tears. They are singing the national anthem of South Africa. They're just happy to have a voice. So no one in the world can convince me with this giant moment where there was like hundreds and hundreds of people at the International Court of Justice just to see it live. You had like over 1 million tweets of South Africa today on just X. It was all over social media. No one ever, it never was this kind of publicity for the International Court of Justice before. So this is a big moment. So there's no coincidence that this same day, Keaton, Joe Biden does the same thing that people say that Trump would do.
Yep.
Inflame a regional war in order to shield Israel as they committed genocide. So not only are they shielding Israel as they committed a genocide by attacking the Nasrallah in Yemen, you have they are actually bombing Houthis in Yemen. They are actually trying to start a war that will inflame a regional war. So not just rhetorically in the International Court of Justice that they are complicit with genocide. They are actually sacrificing their weapons, attacking in order to defend the genocide in Israel. And what's more telling about this is, if you're like a Democrat who want to get rid of Joe Biden, if you are worried about how Joe Biden is doing in the polls, now's your chance to get rid of him. And Ken, I want to get your thoughts on this, your initial thoughts. I got a few. I had to throw this together. Like, I had a whole show plan. I had to completely put this segment together because they decided to do this unhinged attack. Here's shit to leave. And this is what obviously the first reaction that every person should have to Biden bombing Yemen, that he bombed Yemen illegally. How do you define a terrorist? Do you define a terrorist based on who kills the most civilians? You guys don't want to do that. Is it based on people who fight out of the rules of law? Is that how you define terrorists? This is the question I've been asking Zionists since the start of this session. They can't define terrorists. I can. You have Biden that is illegally bombing the Nasrallah in Yemen to protect the genocide, which is in direct violation of Article 1 of the Constitution, where they're carrying out airstrikes in Yemen without congressional approval. But they want to impeach Donald Trump over a porn star? Yeah, what's your initial reaction? I want to get what's your initial
Yeah,
thing?
when are those trials against Donald Trump starting? Those are going to be really high stakes, right? Everybody's going to be really glued to the TV worrying about that shit. Yeah. How
can they follow this? How can they? It's going to be a joke because Democrats have no idea how stupid they look. Like they've been assessing over January 6th as there's a genocide going on right now, fam. You guys know how stupid you look to everyone else other than your suburban wine mom bubble. But go ahead, Keaton. Anything? I don't know how much you read into this because it's very breaking. I'm sorry to just
no, it's breaking.
Have you looked into this at all?
As much as I could have in the past hour or so, yeah, since the news broke. The world is just being dragged into hell by these psychotic demons in our government. Our friend Anish Shivani is a great writer, columnist. He used to write a lot more than he does now, but he was just a freelancer, articles in Salon, Alternate, back when that was a thing. I don't know if Alternate is around still, Counterpunch. He wrote a piece that was intentionally provocative right before the 2020 presidential vote. This was, probably late October of 2020, saying that Donald Trump is the lesser evil. And he didn't write that as a defense of Trump. He wrote that as a warning that if you put guys like Joe Biden back in charge, the military-industrial complex will come back worse than we've ever seen it, talking about George Bush levels of chaos and violence sown around the world. And I think he was proven right. I mean, it is just an absolute nightmare what this world has turned into since the quote-unquote adults came back in charge. And that's not an endorsement of Donald Trump, obviously, but I think we have to be real about the level of psychosis that drives these Anthony Blinken types, these Jake Sullivan types. You know, Russ and I were talking. We did a special matinee. Our schedule's a little wonky this week because we're hosting the Jimmy Dore show. So we went on this afternoon. And, you know, one of the points I made this afternoon was that because Joe Biden is such a weak leader, because he's such a non-presence as an executive, because, you know, he is addled. I mean, he's just an addled old man. We get to see for the first time in a long time the sort of cabinet members who really run things. They become front and center. We've seen Anthony Blinken way more than Joe Biden in these past couple days. Notice that? We haven't seen Biden talk about this. We haven't seen Joe Biden talk about the ICJ trial. We've seen Anthony Blinken talk about it. Because Anthony Blinken, everybody who's paying any modicum of focus to what's going on right now understands that Anthony Blinken is, for all intents and purposes, the commander-in-chief right now. He's running. He's the president.
That's
right
why
now.
you see the dumbest people in politics, the average Democrat normie. What do you call them? The cowbell left?
The cowbell
They're
left.
people in politics because they think that Trump supporters created the deep state, quote unquote, conspiracy theory. Trump dumbed it down. Like, the concept of the deep state is that there's an unelected bureaucrats that we can't get out of government. My question to you guys: how do we vote? How do we get Anthony Blinken out of government? He's been in government for decades as advisors, as a member of government. Now he's going to be the president. So these are the unelected bureaucrats that actually control the government. I've been saying this from the very beginning. That's why they love someone like Joe Biden. And even though he has cognitive decline, his brain is broken, they have Pete Buttigieg coming up next. Is there going to be a difference between how Pete Buttigieg governed and Biden? Absolutely not. But go ahead,
no,
Keaton,
obviously. But this is the point, is that because Biden is so weak, because he's just this senile old man who's not capable of running things, the American public gets to see for the first time the cravenness of these deep state operatives like Anthony Blinken, Jake Sullivan, Lloyd Austin, because we can see very obviously that they are running things. Whereas the role of the president under normal circumstances is to be a figurehead, right? He's the guy you throw out in front of the cameras so that people get the sense that they're running things. And usually a president, whether you love them or hate them, is a big dynamic personality with a big dynamic presence. You could certainly say that for Trump. You could certainly say that for Obama. Bush, less so, which is why everybody suspected Cheney was actually the president at that time. Clinton, obviously big dynamic personality. The role of the president is to be the figurehead so that people don't look behind the president at who's actually running things. Biden is completely incapable of doing that. And so we all see that it's these behind the scenes operatives who don't have the charisma or the talent to run for office themselves. Their role is to run the world behind the personality of a Trump or an Obama type. And we can see that plain as day right now, which is why hopefully there will be some revival of an anti-war movement. We've obviously seen massive activism around this issue in the past couple of months. As I understand, there's a protest in New York City happening right now in response to this bombing. So that's great to see. But that's what it's going to take, and it's going to take that times 1,000. Like it's going to take a lot more than what's happening now, and so it's absolutely imperative that we keep the momentum going, because there is no one in this government or who's running for president and who has any serious chance of winning who is going to right the ship here. It's just a disaster. I mean, it is an absolute nightmare situation that the whole world has been dragged into, under this sick cabal of just ultra-violent psychopaths.
Thank you for the $5, Sean. How long before the rest of Arabia sees Israel doesn't plan on stopping its expansion, and we saw all of Arabia in war with the West? The rapture is coming. You know, it's not a good sign when you see World War III trending right after this.
Yeah.
So I have theories, and like that's stuff that I can prove it, like with receipts. You guys know I love to do like receipt-based shows. I'm sure you guys are not making shit up. Like, my theory is that this society is not as good as people think they claim it is. You know how people think like this is the peak of human society? Why are so many people on antidepressants? What you guys think that people's brain just broke out of nowhere? People
Right.
get upset when I say this. Be careful. I'm not denying your depression, fam. I am telling you that your depression is more than your brain just being broken. Is the society is rotten. You doing your 9 to 5 work, your 9 to 5 job where you commute 1 hour before, 1 hour afterwards. You see your kids for 30 minutes and you got to go to bed. This shit is not how humans supposed to live. So now we actually reflect that in our politics. So if this society is so good, if you live such a comfortable life, why is white America, why are people so willing to throw this away for World War III? If life is so good, if life is such, if we live such in a high tech, such a brilliant society, why are you guys so eager to start World War III and nuclear war? People want to go to war with China, with Russia. You guys don't love the society as much as you guys think you guys do. You guys are just like middle-aged warriors who was bored and want to go to war. Americans are so sad and so depressed that they want to spend their time going to war. Like this, once again, this is not a theory I can prove. These are like thoughts that go in my head. Like this is why I think people are not happy. White America as a whole is not happy. And so they want to go on conquest and destroy other societies because they want to take out how unhappy they are on other people. One's gonna have no receipt. This is me being a theory bro, I guess. Like just trying to judge what the hell is going on. Because I don't know how anyone, because I'm gonna show you guys this clip where CNN and the entire corporate media, I can only grab it so much in a limited amount of time. You guys know the Saturday show, Nick at Noon on Saturday is gonna be a banger. I'll let you guys know right now. Because I'm gonna have fallout for all this by then. CNN, everyone is just fucking celebrating this. They like, finally. Before I show you this clip where the CNN host literally says, finally, like to Biden illegally bombing another country. Do you have anything else you want to chime in before I move on to a few of these other receipts here, Keaton?
Yeah, no, just to add to what you were saying, I mean, we've been talking about this on and off for actually a few years. And, you know, one of the things, I mean, I think it has to do with capital consuming the culture, right? Once wealth gets consolidated as much as it has now, which is the inevitable result of capitalism, there becomes no culture because most of the people in the society are scraping so hard to get by every second of every day that there is no pursuit of any other kind of fulfillment. And the rich people who hoard all of the money and hoard all of the resources, they end up doing that for its own sake. You know, in the early stages of capitalism, right, a couple hundred years ago, what was the image of the aristocrat, the rich person? The ultra rich person always had a mansion, and the mansion always had a lot of books, right? The old cartoon with the rich guy in the library with the ladder that he has to climb to get to all his books. What do rich people have now? Rich people now live in converted warehouses in Chelsea. They pay $5,000 a month for a box apartment. There's no art on the walls. The furniture is horribly uncomfortable, right? I mean, they just accumulate wealth for its own sake. That is their pursuit. And that's why I think we're very unhappy, because I think the culture has just been completely swallowed by the imperatives of capitalism. And you're right. It does have this really terrible effect. It has a terrible effect on the culture as a whole, especially on the arts. Russell just wrote a whole big Substack piece because Russell used to own theaters. He used to do live theater. That was what he did for a living for much of his life.
We imprison 1/4 of the world's prison population. They are building a cop city, and white America wants to fund the police more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What is that? Once again, these are things I think about. I can't prove these stuff with receipts. Maybe someone who studied like psychology knows these answers more than me. We live in the best society, according to you guys, ever. But you guys want a police state? You guys building a police state around this fantastic society? Govern me harder, daddy. That is what white America is saying as a whole. Like go ahead, Ken. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No. That's fine. No, that it's all of a piece. I mean, it's all of a piece. But the arts now seem so disconnected from what's happening in the world to the point where it's almost impossible to enjoy a movie. Like, it's impossible to escape from these horrors and lose yourself in a movie or a TV show, because anything I see that doesn't in some way acknowledge what's going on in the society as the forces of capital just swallow us whole just doesn't resonate. It just doesn't resonate. And that adds to the collective depression of the people. It does. When there's no way to escape into art or into comedy for the most part. Jimmy talks about this all the time, about how comedy has just become this barren wasteland, where nobody talks about anything that's actually happening, right? The best we can do now is this guy, we're going to cover this on the show tomorrow, did an AI version of a George Carlin special. Right? Like that's all, it's all there. It's all there. And I think as we hurtle more towards the hell that we're hurtling towards, those disconnects are going to be harder and harder to bridge in our psyche, in the public psyche as a sort of extension of that. Pardon me. And so that's why I think people are very miserable. And I think that does have to do with a certain lashing out of an empire that is clearly on its way out.
Yeah, that's well said. I want to show you guys. There's a lot I can add on that, but I didn't get to the story. I essentially got completely thank God we got Saturday show, Nick at noon on Saturday, because there's gonna be a lot of follow up to this. I had to completely change the show today, fam. I'm still going through the receipts. I'll be looking right now because there's so much to go over. I want to show you guys this. This is one of the first things I saw. And I'm definitely going to be tuning into Morning Joe tomorrow. It's going to be unbearable. Unbearable, because
pray for man tonight.
The neoliberal neocon have accepted the right-wing framing on Biden, because I watched our enemies. I know what they're saying. The right wing for quite some time have been criticizing Joe Biden for not being tougher and bombing more of the Ansar Allah. They have been criticizing them for not going after Iran, even though you had Joe Biden, who's been acting like Blackbeard and stealing billions of dollars of oil and other shit that's bound to Iran, stealing their money and not returning it. But despite all the crazy stuff that that Biden has done to Iran, they still pretend that he's weak on them. So now liberals are extremely happy that Biden now finally launched this assault, what they view as an attack finally on an Iranian proxy. So this video is crazy and shows exactly why we are the most propagandized country in the world. So this is Anya. Once again, we love the Gray Zone here. She does great work with the Gray Zone. She says CNN host and wife of Citigroup banker Aaron Burnett is openly celebrating U.S. strikes on Yemen tonight. So let's watch it. Let's not spoil it.
Warren, thank you very much. And always important to note, 90% of the world's trade goes by ship. And these attacks have gone unanswered now for 3 months until this mass assault, this broad assault that we're talking about happening at this hour. Barack Ravid is our political and global affairs analyst, and retired U.S. Army Major General James Spider Marks also joins me. So, General, here we are. Finally, 27 strikes.
Finally.
Finally. U.S. ships targeted. The U.S. now tonight.
We did it. We successfully manufactured consent towards war. Thank God.
She's wondering what took so long. They obviously had to wait till the trial started, Aaron. They needed to wag the dog to get people's eye off the trial. That's why it took so long. Sorry to keep you waiting.
So you guys see how excited once again CNN is about this, because they make money on war. And this is not going to end well for the United States, fam. Remember, we don't win wars. I explain this on RBN all the time. People are wondering why Israel's pointing out Gaza. Israel very casualty averse. They're mourning their dead Jewish supremacist Nazi soldiers because they're a very casualty averse society. They went into Gaza, and the second they left those tanks, and if he wasn't a sniper sniping at children from a distance, they went into Gaza and got their ass handed to them. Because the United States and Israel, they are not great fighting forces. They inflict massive casualty damage. They inflict massive suffering on a group of people as a strategy for military dominance. We didn't end the war on terror. We didn't win the war on terror. We just killed 2.5 million Iraqis. Terrorism's stronger than ever based on how they define it. You know what I mean? We just fucking lost a proxy war in Ukraine. The United States got their ass beat in Korea. The only thing they accomplished in Korea is slaughtering 3 million plus Korean people. The only thing they accomplished in Vietnam is committing a genocide in Vietnam, killing innocent people in Vietnam. But the Vietnamese whooped their ass. The same way the Houthis are about to whoop their ass now. I explained before, a lot of people don't know because there's a lot of children in the media. Do you guys know how fucking big the Red Sea is? Their bombing attempt is not going to stop Yemen from doing their duty of blocking these cargo ships. So that's why the United States and UK start bombing Yemen, and God knows how many civilians they killed. They are going to inflict suffering on the Yemenis people. They are going to engage in collective punishment because they cannot defeat the Ansar Allah. And this is actually a great post kind of explaining this from Haas. We had Haas on a few times before. Haas is a funny kind of crazy to me, in my personal opinion. He's a funny kind of crazy. He also a communist, so I'm always interested in hearing the point of view on communists, even if they're more socially conservative than me. That's just how I am. So this is an interesting case. I'm going to read it. Once again, I'm going to throw this segment together last second. I'm going to have a lot more on Nick at Noon. The United States made a big mistake bombing Yemen. If you think the new war in Yemen is going to be restricted in Yemen, think again. It's now open season for United States and British military bases in the region. The Yemenis are fearless and have nothing to lose. They will easily set the entire region on fire. Do not underestimate their strike capacity far outside Yemen either, or their deadly embedded alliances with other groups. We have just heard reports of new attacks, and I heard it before. I couldn't confirm anything because it was so fast. Things are moving fast. We just heard reports of new attacks on U.S. bases by Iraqi militias, and we already have service troops that have been injured and wounded and killed by the attacks because they are illegally occupying other countries. But let me continue. Everyone knows that a major regional war will break out this year. It looks like it might now be entering the point of no return. All the defenders of justice, soldiers of righteousness, and keepers of honor are Yemeni today. All the noble among mankind are with Yemen, and the fate of all humanity is Yemeni. We see a people wage a war for no other reason than the defense of human dignity without any profit motive whatsoever. History will remember heroic Yemen, who did what other Arab leaders were too corrupt and cowardly to do for all eternity. I think that was a good read. Interesting read from Haas there. This is some more footage. I'm throwing this together for you guys here last second because it's such a big story. There's just more footage of the bombing here. And I have this receipt saved because I had a lot of cover, and I don't know what order to do this today because I had so much to cover, lots of breaking. You see here the UN Security Council. Now, this is going to be an obstacle that we have to deal with. We have the UN Security Council. They have to vote after the ICJ rules. And I'm going to cover this here very soon. You guys see how the UN Security Council was already helping set the stage to demonize the Houthis, the Ansar Allah in Yemen? So this comes out before the attack. I don't think none of this stuff is coincidence. This come out right before the attacks. UN Security Council demands immediate end to Houthi attacks. So instead of the UN Security Council demanding an end to the Israeli genocide, which to be fair, a lot they are trying, but the United States has been blocking it. But just show you how weak international law in the UN is, they condemned the Houthis' legal resistance before they stopped Israeli genocide. What does that say? So here's another receipt. I'm gonna move on to the International Court of Justice story here soon. But there's just so much to cover on this. I might go on Twitter and see if there's any new developments. This is before the strike. So the strikes actually happened. This was breaking a few hours ago. U.S. and UK prepared to launch strikes against Houthis in Yemen. Anything else you want to add before I go through a few more receipts? Anything else you want to add to this real quick?
Yeah, I just brought up that Haas tweet on my phone because one of the passages in it kind of relates to what we were talking about just a few minutes ago. We see a people wage a war for no other reason than the defense of human dignity without any profit motive whatsoever. So that relates very strongly to what you were saying earlier about how depressed people seem to be, right? And how this violence is just this sort of sick sort of like manifestation of our own sense of hopelessness as a people, our own sense of despair, our own lack of purpose. You notice Tusker, one of our friends, very good friends, who filled in and co-hosted a show for Russ. I think this is when she co-hosted for me actually. I think like a week and a half ago or something. She said, she made the point about the Yemeni people. She said, it's always the poorest and the most desperate people who tend to be the bravest and the boldest and who express the most profound solidarity. And that's true. And I think a big reason why that's true is because when you divorce yourself from the profit motive, when you divorce yourself from the imperatives of a capitalist system, when you're no longer hostage to those sorts of dynamics, you find meaning in life through other means. And to a lot of people, that comes through family, to a lot of people that comes through faith. I mean, these journalists in Gaza now, who are just being picked off one by one, they say it's our destiny to be here, and we trust that God will be kind and that God will recognize that. These are people who are motivated by deeper things than what motivates the West. The West is just a giant strip mall at this point, in pursuit of more franchise stores and more cash. And that ultimately is a very hollow way to live one's own personal life. And by extension, it's a very hollow way to run a civilization. And maybe that's why we don't win anymore, because we're up against people who have less than we do materially, but I think they have more to fight for in their hearts and souls than we do. And I think that's why they win.
So I see nothing but fantastic takes on Twitter. Like, there's so much stuff to compact from this. This is like we see an article like coming out within the last 5 to 10 minutes. Like, this is, if you watch this live stream, you guys getting some breaking ass shit right now. Make sure you subscribe to RBN. Make sure you guys watch Nick at Night Tuesday and Thursday evenings, and also Saturday at noon as well. Gonna have Keaton on. We have a lot of banger guests that are gonna be featured on this 1 hour program on RBN. CJ killed it earlier today. That's a new format. We're trying to break ever since we got our YouTube strike, our views were cut in half. Our views were cut in half since October 7th. Coincidence? Nah. But anyway, so this is one way we're gonna break this. We already have a big show on tonight, so we appreciate everyone watching. If you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe if you want more hard-hitting content like this. I'm gonna show you guys a few takes because we are doing this live. Like, I have a whole nother segment, but I'm gonna be back on Saturday. They're gonna be a live breakdown. So I'm fucking tossing my show. We're just going through this live. There's so many base takes because I follow so many base people on Twitter. So I'm gonna just read a few of them. Here's Ronnie Khalid. So insane the United States and UK are bombing Yemen to protect Israel from the consequences for a genocide in Gaza. This is reckless and risk regional escalation, all to protect the country carrying out a genocide. And you guys think the rest of the world doesn't see this? An entire generation is seeing this. Boomers just going along with the empire brainwashed, but Zoomers watch this in horror. I saw a few liberal Democrats. We don't even have time to do this Fetterman segment. God damn it. Because we was going to do that. I saw one liberal was like, look at Fetterman's approval rating. It was positive among Democrats because he unhinged. And as you explained on Due Distance, that we can't take over the Democratic Party because people underestimate how unhinged the Democratic voter actually is. So actually, John Fetterman is killing it among Democrats, whether you guys believe it or not. But among that same poll, John Fetterman is deeply underwater. Like, he only had like a 27 approval rating among young people. So young people are done with this shit. I don't know if that's gonna be like long term, because I remember people thought the hippies was done, and then it became the most unhinged Cold War neocons we ever seen. Funny enough. Anyway, let me read a few more receipts. Ken, feel free to interrupt me if you have anything you want to add. This is not a planned segment. Like, I threw my whole damn show away essentially, but it's good to have you on. It's good to have Ken on to ad-lib this show with me today. Here, Caitlin Johnstone. You guys know I feature a lot. One, I would say top 3, like top 3 accounts on Twitter. The United States and UK just bombed Yemen, where they recently helped Saudi Arabia commit a genocide in order to protect Israel's ability to commit another genocide in Gaza. Here's Richard Medhurst, Britain and America are bombing Yemen all over, and Hodea and Sana'a, apparently they haven't killed and starved enough Yemenis and Palestinians. And one thing I want to remember, because I saw a lot of people mention this as well, the Ansar Allah in Yemen, they haven't killed anyone in their active resistance. They hurt capital, but you guys see how capitalists and our ruling class view that as more important as human life. I'll read one more tweet, and then I'm gonna try to get through some more receipts. I think this is a general good breakdown. I'll be back on Saturday to cover this more. Here's Richard Medhurst with another great tweet. Yemen fulfilled their duty under Article 1 of the Genocide Convention to prevent and punish Israel for genocide. If you don't like Yemen firing at commercial ships, then you shouldn't fire 2,000-pound bombs at Palestinians. Why do we have to explain this to people, Keaton? Why do we have to explain this to children in the West? I don't even identify with these people. No, I don't even identify. I'm like the West. I don't even do that on purpose. It's just I don't identify with this shit no more. I just don't. Yeah. I don't identify with this culture at all. A culture that complicit with this, I'm more than happy to be a social outcast now. There's nothing better than being a social outcast in a country complicit with genocide.
It really is a remarkable thing. I mean, that's a very cutting insight, because I felt the same way. Like, you watch this stuff. I mean, the corporate media has obviously, been, unbearable for me for a while, but just the general discourse around this is just so blind to the reality of the situation. How could you even be approaching this conversation the way that an Aaron Burnett approaches the conversation? Oh, finally, we did something about them attacking. Yeah. How can you be so blind to the reality of the situation? How could you just be so okay with colonization as a method of international practice, and so unaware of how complicit you are in this? Like, that's what strikes me as kind of strange. I mean, after 9/11, a lot of people framed those war on terror years as a civilizational battle, but that was based on an understanding in their mind, I'm not saying I would endorse this, that the Western values are so superior to these other values and that this clash represents this fight. But this, if you know the first thing about Israel, you understand that they shouldn't fucking be there in the first place. Right? And
that's a good way to put it.
And right, there's no simpler way to put it. It's as simple as that. And so once you understand that, how does that not influence the way you think about this war? How could it not? There's like, if you're just wired differently from me, if you can't think about it differently knowing that fact. But people act as if that's either not a fact or not a problem. And it just shows the naked bias of the West. And I think that's just what it really boils down to, is just abject racism. And that's really what it is. And that's why it's so impossible to fight back against it, because it's just die-in-the-wool bigotry at the end of the day. It didn't matter how good Atticus Finch's argument was to that jury. He had no chance to win because there was just no changing their mind. And that's how this felt at the beginning of all this. I felt like there was no way we were going to be able to break through and influence the public mind. And thank God I was wrong about that. We seem to have influenced the public mind. Is that enough to influence the people in power? Tragically, probably not. But that's one of the reasons why this International Court of Justice trial is so important, because it is potentially a watershed moment in that struggle, at least.
Yeah. So now let's transition to International Court of Justice. I at least want to cover this a bit. I'm gonna read this here. This is our friend Robert. I didn't have Robert back on the show. I love Robert Durden. Very underrated. Reminder, Yemen has not killed anyone, not one. The United States is preparing to go to war over Yemen, blockading Israeli ships to protect Israel's bottom line. And do you guys think this is going to be popular on the global stage? We just say fuck it. We don't care. Might makes right.
Right. Yep.
Which makes the International Court of Justice proceeding so important. And I explained this at the beginning of the show. And I'm gonna show you guys here very soon why we need to be level-headed about the possibilities of this genocide court, especially considering corruption, political pressures. There was reporting that the first thing that Israel did on the eve of this trial was to put their pressure on many countries. And to be honest, man, I'm very glad to see Lula there, because Lula does have a very strong history of standing with Palestinians, but Lula is a statesman, and he has to retain good relationship with the United States. And this is why he get criticized a lot by people like me, a communist, harsh anti-Western advocate. Like, we criticize Lula harsh for that. So that's why it's good to see Brazil there. I wasn't sure they're going to be on there first. So that's huge. Like, we got the largest country in South America, about half the population in Brazil. That's giant. Another big name I see, Saudi Arabia. That's huge as well, with their relationships with the United States. These are the countries, and this is, I probably need to find an updated graph. This is like as of around noon today, of all the countries that support the International Court of Justice. And that's why it's very telling that the United States launched these illegal airstrikes today. I don't think it's a coincidence. This is the United States and Israel lashing out because they're illegal criminal states doing what they do best, with violence. Now, I love the contrast. Let's think about this, Ken. You have the South Africans who, as I mentioned before, grew up under brutal apartheid. They learned the law, and they go into the legal process to oppose their enemies. So you have South Africa going through the legal process to oppose their enemies, as Joe Biden, the leader of white Western society, is illegally bombing them. No, not bombing them, bombing Yemen in response. You have Israel calling South Africa Hamas. So who's the real civil society? Who are the real barbarians in the room? I think it's obvious what culture is.
Well, yeah, and as long as we're on this topic, I think if you have it handy, since you were going to play it anyway, I think you really should play the John Fetterman clip.
Yeah, we can do it. We can do it.
Okay. Oh, you are. Okay, I thought you were going to skip over it. I'm like, if we're talking about this, we kind of have to.
Since you said that, I definitely fit that in somewhere. Probably at the end of this part here. Okay. Because I want to do that segment with Keaton. That's just gonna be funny. Yeah. So I'm gonna continue. Once again, feel free to interrupt if you have anything you want to add. I can't see any verbal cues. But I'm gonna show you another reason why the United States in the West is a country ran by criminals and barbarians. I'm gonna show you guys a law that a lot of people don't know exists. So let's say, hypothetically, the International Court of Justice is successful in charging Israel with genocide. Now, this will have huge implications, because you can legitimately see members in the UK Parliament, people in France, people who was complicit with the genocide be arrested. George Galloway did a great segment about this. He's like, guys, this is not insignificant. Like, we gotta be cautious about our optimism, but there are really good things about it. Like people in the UK, in France, and a lot of people in Europe could get locked the fuck up about this. Nothing we can do about that. But the United States have a plan. And we always had a plan if there was an attempt to hold us accountable for war crimes and Israel accountable for war crimes. Do you guys know there's something called the Hague Invasion Act? The Hague? What? What, Nick? We are the leaders of the free world. We are the moral beacon of society. What are you talking about? There's this thing that we have a law for. Like, whenever the International Court of Justice, International Criminal Court, whenever the Hague prosecute our war criminals, we will invade them, kill people in order to free them. And this was made, you gotta see the day here. This is August 3rd, 2002. This is when George W. Bush was in charge, committing war crimes, kidnapping people, torturing them in Guantanamo Bay, Abu Ghraib, like this kind of stuff that radicalized me growing up. And people trying to convince me Trump was evil. I was like, shut the fuck up. Right. Shut the fuck up. But this is the Hague Invasion Act. So let's say everything is successful here. This is not a shortcut from engaging in revolution to overthrow U.S. imperialism. This is just a start, fam. Anything else you want to add? I have one more last receipt, and then we're going to get to the John Fetterman story before we wrap up. Anything you want to add? Or you can pass it to me if you have it.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, no, you're good. Keep going.
I'm going to show you guys this. And I'm trying to kind of ground myself. because there is a lot of positives, and it's very crucial for the soul and the future of humanity for the ICJ to rule against Israel. Because if they don't, war change. Hospitals, valid target now. Journalists, valid target now. Children, valid target now. Like, so it's crucial for Israel to be ruled against. But if they do, we got to understand this. I have to read this because this is a very educational part. The ICJ cannot force Israel to cease its genocide in Palestine. People need to understand that, because I've seen people, and I probably was guilty of it. I'm not trying to be older than that. Maybe me as well. That was like, yeah, this is good. We about to take down Israel with this. No. This is the beginning, and this is the time where everyone has to activate. The South African lawyers, they're doing their job and part of the professional managerial class. Now, every single person who's against colonialism, we got to do our part to put maximum pressure on U.S. imperialism right now. So let me just read a little bit of this. And then we get to John Fetterman segment. That'd be the last segment today. Today, the International Court of Justice will hear South Africa challenge against Israel for alleged violations of the Genocide Conventions in Gaza. The ICJ hearing is a welcome move, as it will present compelling evidence of Israel's genocidal campaign. The overwhelming evidence of intent and implementation is manifest in Israel's brutal onslaught on Gaza. It will force the apartheid regime and its supporters to confront the horrors it has sought to hide and justify. There's another part too, guys. That's huge. Like, I wish I can repeat the lesson I heard. Like, there was like a Kwame Ture lesson. There was another theory book I was reading. They were talking about revolutionary energy. There's truth has power. They were talking about with the cat segment. Truth has power. Like, when you expose the ruling class, when the riot of the culture is exposed, there's a certain energy that is sent throughout the masses that they discover this, and this energy can be converted to revolutionary energy. So this trial, whether it's successful or not, is huge in order to cultivate the energy needed on the international masses to end the state of Israel. And many people predict, like I do, like Scott Ritter does, like George Calloway does, like many people does, that this is the end of Israel.
Yes, because the rest of the world is starting to organize against the West now. That's the difference. And that's kind of what you see symbolized in this trial. You see it manifest in other ways that are far less symbolic. I mean, that's what BRICS is, right? But you're seeing organization against this sort of hegemonic expansion. And, that's hugely important. And that's what we're seeing here. This is part of it. It's obviously a lot bigger than this trial, but that's really the importance of this, is you're seeing countries come together, not just express outrage, but actually organize around that outrage. And it does create a revolutionary moment for sure. There's no doubt about that.
You guys understand that Marxism is a science. Like, revolution is studied and outlined as a science. That's why it scares the shit out of capitalists. Like, when we talk about revolutionary energy and the energy to activate the masses, telling truth is a part of that. Once again, Nick and I are going to cover like theories. Well, I might do a whole segment on this. Once again, I'm not good as, like, I saw a speech about that. I was playing this. I'm like, God damn, I got to be able to emulate this speech. It was brilliant. So anyway, let's continue this. I'm going to read a little bit more and then we get to the John Fetterman segment. What I leave off? The overwhelming evidence, it will force the apartheid regime and its supporters to confront the horrors it has sought. However, the 20-year experience of Cage International in both, and these are the people who write this, so they're saying in their 20-year experience in both domestic and international courts, leads us to believe that little should be expected in the way of justice. And I saw Norman Finkelstein talk to Katie Halper, and I was like, man, Norman Finkelstein, he about to explain to us how Israel about to get got. And he was saying the same thing, fam. And I'm like, and when Norman says it, I'm like, fuck, there's probably legitimacy to that. Now we got this, or I don't know KZAT was, to be clear. Hopefully they're not some shady organization. People like, Nick, what the fuck you calling Clay? So I don't know them, but according to them, they got a lot of experience in the ICJ. So they say, based on their experience, it leads us to believe that little should be expected in the way of justice. There are few, if any, instances of judges resisting the enormous political pressure they face in cases involving the brutal abuses of power. The war on terror narrative has ushered an age where the courts have consistently ignored any protection enshrined in domestic and international law. The ICJ is unlikely to make a decision on whether Israel is carrying out a genocide for several years. Fam, when I heard that, my heart kind of sunk. So what they're doing is an interim order. I'll read because they're about to explain it. This week hearing is only to determine whether it should make an interim order for Israel to halt its offensive and withdraw from Gaza. Even if it were to do so, the ICJ has no effective means of implementing the order, save by the way of a resolution from the UN Security Council. You guys see the problem here? You guys see why this is the message of RBN. RBN do this since only a handful of people are going to cover it this way. Where instead of just having unnecessary just vibe on the story. I was about to say toxic positivity, but that's not the right term. Instead of just vibe on the story, we're here to tell you the reality of the situation. This is the moment that activates people. When people gotta get ready for the struggle. This is the start. Like people you're not gonna have the courts and the international laws solve the Israeli genocide problem. The only goal of RBN, we don't have to be a massive channel. We don't have to get massive views. But we are here to tell the audience that do watch us, we need to get activated. We need to start putting shit in our own hands. We need to memorize every single argument South Africa had, and we need to be able to explain this to people to help to activate the masses, right? But let me read the last part and we move on. The U.S. has vetoed Security Council resolutions critical of Israel no less than 89 times and is unlikely to veer away from its function. And we've seen how you already have the United States. I'm about to say John Blinken, Anthony Blinken. You already have Anthony Blinken and John Kirby. I'm about to say I'm going to feud John Kirby, Anthony Blinken. I think that was that. You have John Kirby saying that it was baseless.
Yeah, meritless.
Meritless. So the person that said it's meritless, the administration that said it's meritless. You guys think they're going to flip and support this on the UN Security Council? So once again, we gotta be telling the truth at RBN. We gotta be grounded in reality. This is great for all the reasons that we said. But this is just the beginning. Keaton, I'll pass for you last words. I need to learn. Shut up. Any last words on this segment, and we can have some fun with Fetterman to end this.
No, I mean, look, that's exactly right. There's not going to be the bang of a gavel and have this fighting end, or have any of this damage undone. That could never happen. The goal here now, and it's really it's going to be the project of our lifetimes to seek justice for what's been done.
Yeah.
That's ultimately what the goal is going to be. Yes, exactly. And it's going to have to be all of our life's goal. And it's not going to happen instantly. But these are the moments along the way that prove to be big moments and that prove to be, I think, deciding moments in the end in terms of how successful this quest for some kind of justice will or will not be. There has to be justice for this. If it's too late for Gaza, there has to be justice for it. That's a severe thing to say. I wish I were more optimistic about Gaza than I am. But either way, Israel cannot get away with this. They cannot get away with this.
It can't. It'll be tragic, man. You guys have, I really do believe that, bro, if they allow to bomb hospitals, they get away with this, we're going to see a chilling effect on war for a very, very long time. We're going to see very bad people. We're going to see people in desperate situations that are going to look at the Gaza situation and they say, hey, Israel did it. And you think they're going to stop there? When you look at humanity, humans always take it to the next level. So there could be a force that we can't even acknowledge right now that is going to be based in Western imperialism, because it always is. Not going to be a mysterious Eastern force. It's going to be some force in the United States. It's going to be some allies, some crazy fascists, some crazy disaster somewhere. They're going to justify a response, and they're going to look at the precedent set in Gaza. If this ruling, if Israel not held accountable, it's going to be a very bone-chilling effect. Let me read a few super chats, and we will get to our last quick segment. This is a fun segment. I think we should end on the segment at the end of the night. Thank you guys for hanging in with me. This marks the first week of Nick at Night Season 2. Hope you guys have been enjoying the new evening show. I have greatly. I'm doing a lot. We're gonna have a lot of these one-on-ones. We had Lucy on the last show as well. So, and I got like a ton of guests lined up, and hopefully we can have Ken back on. I'm trying to make these shows about an hour, more easily digestible, easier to do as a guest too. So hopefully we can have you back on very soon.
Yeah,
I think for
I'll come back
999
anytime.
Jennings, the Hague Invasion Act violates international law, so our military will be legally obliged to refuse any orders related to it. Military is supposed to follow national and international laws. Well said. I guess I'll read some super chats here. We only have a few here. Let me read this one as well. Thank for the $2 DC. World War I was the last crusades. Brits took the Holy Land. And the funny thing, I actually had Zionists that make those arguments to me. Like I destroy the argument so clearly on Twitter. Like every once in a while they'll be like, "You don't think we had the right to fight for our homeland? You know this is our homeland 1,000 years ago." I'm like, ma'am and sir, I don't give a fuck what your book said. That's like the worst. Like if you want to get me on your side of your argument, the worst thing you can do is quote a fucking mythical book to me. And that's what they've been leading to. Oh, you guys denying our right to fight for our land? I do not acknowledge that as your land at all. Why should me, someone who's secular, acknowledge what's in your book? That is the worst argument they can make. And they do all the time. That's the argument they make, and they have none. Thank for the 499 Andres. Morris Berman talks about our wars as an expansion of America's inner violence. As such, yeah. I haven't read his book, but I have read a similar analysis. I need to learn, like, that's such a great analysis as well. Like, why is America so violent? Why we have so many school shooting? I do not think that is not unrelated, like the school shooting problem, all like inner city violence, all this stuff. I think that's related to the fact that we're the most violent empire in modern human history. I mean, you guys know it's not normal. It's not normal for a country to just be talking about what countries they want to topple, what regimes they want to change. Like, and I say this because Nico was telling me this, like, and Glenn was saying this as well. Like, in Brazil, there's no conversation about what regime they're gonna topple. They talk about domestic policies. When you go to any other country, they talk about domestic policy. In the United States, look, we gotta take out Iran, we gotta take out Syria, that is not normal, but it is in our society. Anyway, let's move on to our last story. I actually found this video, looking for the video for another one from our friend Liger, who also got scheduled, also gonna have scheduled on Nick and Knight, our friends at Midwestern Mars, who do fantastic videos. You guys see my hotspot videos. I saw Eddie Liger killing the damn game on TikTok, and I was like, man, I can get with these young kids. I can get with these young kids. That's why you guys see my hotspot videos. I think they're doing pretty well.
They're great.
I can do this.
They're great.
But Eddie was one of the people that planted the seed, if you guys don't know, because Midwestern Mark's been killing it. They've been banned on TikTok so many damn times. So I just want to start with this video because Eddie, I haven't seen it. I know I probably shouldn't show videos I haven't seen on, but Eddie is that reliable. I haven't seen it. I'm like, man, if it's from Eddie, it's going to be a banger. I actually found it just now. So I actually want to start the statement with this. Now I want to get your take.
So John, the fake progressive Fetterman, just keeps getting worse and worse. He recently gave a big, long speech demonizing the Palestinians and justifying all of Israel's actions in the Gaza Strip. But this one part of the speech caught my attention for being uniquely deranged and illogical.
And now let's also talk about that. Now we're talking about genocide. And now South Africa is bringing that kind of a trial. Maybe South Africa being able to sit this one out when they're talking about genocide.
So this is the clip, if you guys haven't seen it, that has gone viral. Before I finish Eddie's clip, I want to make sure I play a higher quality video. So I'm going to do it this way. I want you guys to see the clip, and then we watch Eddie's take on it. So this is the clip he's reacting to. And this is what has everyone, all the same professional managerial class that did not have the balls to do what me and Dissidence do. We was the only ones, wasn't we? How many channels that was like, hey, all you guys on the John Fetterman nonsense are full of shit. That's what I did. That what got RBN blacklisted. I saw you guys did content calling this guy out. Now these same people are embarrassed, and they should be, and good for them for calling him out. But I will never let the people who support this guy live it down. So let's watch this video. Let's watch a higher quality video, and then we get back to Eddie.
Who are they really fighting? It's a group of cowards. They hide in tunnels. They hide behind civilians. They attack, kill, and mutilate children, women, and they do that. Stop talking about proportion on that.
Stop talking about proportion. We are looking at an insane psychopath fascist. So as they talking about how Hamas mutilated people, which once again citation needed, you have 1,000 children in Gaza who had their legs amputated without anesthesia. The worst possible horror. So as that is happening, Fetterman said we should have no restraints, and we should, essentially saying more children should be amputated in Gaza without anesthesia, because he's saying there should be no restraint. And it's the question I always propose to people: how do you define terrorism?
Well, this is what that guy, this is what the South African scholar Tembeka Nukatobi, this is what he said in his, I guess those were opening statements. I didn't watch it in real time. But he said, we've seen over and over again expressions of genocidal intent on the part of the Israelis. We've seen it here too. The idea that proportion is irrelevant is a statement of genocidal intent.
Yeah,
that is a statement that you are literally saying it does not matter how many civilians are killed because proportion is irrelevant. If that's not genocidal intent, what is? It's an open and shut case.
Absolutely, Keaton. If you have no red lines in war and combat, you are a terrorist.
Of course.
Now, I mean, people can define terrorists. I can. So when people say that Israel should have no restraints and there should be no proportionality, as John Fetterman is saying, just like the Biden administration said when there's no red lines, when you say there's no red line in combat, you are a terrorist. A terrorist is someone who fights without no red lines, willing to do any sort of atrocity in order to accomplish their goal. That's a terrorist. And we have Western society that consistently endorse terrorism.
Right.
Meanwhile, they want us to condemn Hamas? I haven't.
I was on the Misty Winston show last week. I made this point there. I want to make this point on every show I go to. Let's take the Hamas human shield argument at face value, right? Just for the purposes of making this point. Okay, They hide behind human shields. Let's say Hamas did commandeer Al-Shifa Hospital, which the Washington Post, by the way, did an investigation and said they found no evidence of that. But let's say that were true. Here's what you have to ask these people. Okay, so if a domestic terrorist organization in the United States commandeered an American hospital, would you be okay with our government laying siege upon that hospital, cutting the power off of that hospital, setting snipers up outside that hospital and instructing them to shoot anything that moved inside that hospital, even if it was a doctor, a patient, a woman, or a child? No, of course you wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
If you think that it's okay to execute hostages, i.e. kill civilians, because they're being held hostage by terrorists, then you are complicit in terrorism.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I refuse to accept their narrative, unlike all these other weak progressives who think they're good on Palestine. People who condemn the resistance. Like, that's why I don't even think Mehdi's good on Palestine. Like, if you condemn the resistance, you're not good on Palestine. That came from my brothers and sisters at the Palestinian Community Network. I'm so quote unquote radical. I celebrate victories of the Palestinian resistance because they're fighting terrorists like this guy. So let's watch this and then we get back to Eddie and we can get some. There's gonna be a lot more to respond to because we have him lying about beheaded babies, mutilations, and then as he condemned Hamas for mutilations. These people are so brainwashed, they don't understand how ridiculous it is. That they condemn Hamas, they then turn around and say Israel got the right to do what we condemn Hamas for.
Right. Yep.
Like, how there's a mass psychosis that is destroying the minds of everyone in our society. You know what I mean?
It's racism. That's what I said earlier. This is just racism. It really is. It's saying a certain deed is okay when the white settler colonial Western backed power does it, and it's not okay when the imprisoned brown people do it. It's as simple as that at the end of the day. I mean, there's more layered over it, but fundamentally, that's it.
That's exactly what we're saying, and thank you for saying that, man, because there's a lot of people who are afraid to say it. That's how they manufacture consent for these wars. That's exactly what it is. So let's finish this and we can continue.
Children, women, and they do that? Stop talking about proportion on that. They shot their best shot on October 7th. And they would have taken more lives if they couldn't do that, but they couldn't do it. And now let's also talk about that. Now we're talking about genocide. And now South Africa is bringing that kind of a trial. Maybe South Africa being able to sit this one out when they're talking about criticizing the
Unbelievable.
That is as unhinged as it gets. That's what you would hear from Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's Sean Hannity. That's Lauren Boebert. That's who you guys voted for. I'm talking about rhetorically to the Bernie left. The entirety of the Bernie left voted for Dr. Oz. I don't think Dr. Oz would say that, to be honest. Do you guys think Dr. Oz would say that? So that's him pushing the false white genocide claims. You know how South Africa took back what was theirs from the people who had committed apartheid and genocide against those people? And then the people who committed colonialization, the people who support apartheid, then get upset that the people took back what was theirs and they call it a genocide. You guys see, it's like white culture is so barbaric that they take words and twist it. There's not a genocide in Gaza, fam. Not a genocide in Gaza, but there was a white genocide in South Africa.
Yeah, you know, it's funny you mentioned that point because I didn't know, and I still don't know. I mean, you could be right. That could be what he's referencing. I didn't know if he's referencing that or if he is just too ignorant to understand that there's been a change of tides politically within South Africa. Like, to me, it's 50-50.
You guys realize, and I don't have the receipts with me right now, but if you look at right wing, there's the account in wokeness, and there was a lot of like,
oh, they love this guy now. Yeah,
there was a lot of white nationalist Twitter accounts. They're like, oh my god, we didn't know John Fetterman was based. Here's John Fetterman spreading our white nationalist talking points about white genocide in South Africa.
Yes,
and we need to I am the revolution. That's bullshit. I'm not like a historic expert, but that has been debunked so many times. This is bullshit. Like, and you guys see how they turn. Maybe you're right, King. Maybe I am giving too much credit. Maybe the right wing just took that. Maybe you're right.
They maybe just be taking it and running with it.
Maybe I am reading too much into this. Maybe
I don't know. To me, it's 50-50. Yeah, I mean, either way, it's fucking dumb as shit. But you know, it's 50-50 on what he actually meant by that.
Yeah. Now think about it. You might be right. I can see both. I don't think now think about it. I don't think he's smart enough to even do that. Now think about it. But anyway, let's get to Eddie's video.
South Africa, bad. They are apartheid. They shouldn't judge people. That's about the level of intellect I expect out of John Fetterman.
Let's watch Eddie Liger's video. And now we got a context. Let's continue his video.
So there you have it. Fetterman wants South Africa to sit down and drop the case of genocide that they brought against Israel at the International Court of Justice. And John, if Israel's not committing a genocide and they've got nothing to hide, why are you so scared of a trial? If Israel's truly just defending themselves against violent aggressors, shouldn't the trial reveal that? But you see, Fetterman's not actually interested in getting to the truth. He's interested in defending Israel regardless of their actions. A recent analysis actually found that he became a staunch supporter of Israel after receiving money from the Israeli lobby. Imagine that. So instead of engaging with the facts, Fetterman says South Africa has to sit this one out because South Africa used to be an apartheid state. Black and white South Africans were treated differently under the law until a massive struggle that culminated in the 1980s. But what Fetterman seems to be forgetting is that this struggle was led by Nelson Mandela, who has always been pro-Palestine and highly critical of Israel. So Fetterman is saying that South Africa needs to sit this one out because they used to be an apartheid state. But the reason why South Africa is so concerned with what Israel is doing is because they know how awful apartheid is. And Israel...
I think that's why I read so much into it, because like his statement is so dumb. And I do think I see a lot of people like agree. I see 50-50 in the chat, like people thinking it's because he's saying genocidal. I don't know. I think he's not smart enough to make that conclusion. But what he said is so ridiculous. That's why I'm glad to see Eddie breaks this down. You can only ponder what that could possibly mean. South Africa, sit this out.
Well, we covered on our show today. we covered on our show earlier. This is how dumb this fucking guy is. Even Netanyahu, Benjamin Netanyahu, thought it would be a good idea to, before the trial started, put out a video pretending like he cares about the lives of the people in Gaza. He put out a video. I don't know if you saw that. It was, I think it was yesterday or the day before, talking about, well, I just want to make a few quick points. You know, we are not at war with the Palestinian people. We're at war with Hamas, right? because he knew a trial was about to start and he wanted to, put out some video that, he could point to, that his lawyers could point to, saying, look, they're not, they're doing the best they can. Even he realized that this week is not a good week to go out and double down on genocidal rhetoric. And Fetterman couldn't even come to that conclusion. He goes, well, South America, they should, what the fuck did he fucking say? They're not one to criticize. I mean, just an absolute moron.
Bro,
when even Benjamin Netanyahu could contain his psychosis better than you know you're in a bad place.
I think supporting people is bad for the soul, man. Like, I could imagine, like, if I filled out the ballot in 2020 for John Fetterman and Joe Biden, that would be a dark plight on my soul for the rest of my. I would spend so much time trying, like, and I understand the anger, and I'm gonna show you guys a few responses from the PMC class who realized they fucked up really bad by supporting this guy. But let's continue Eddie's video. We almost done, almost at the limit. Actually, I need to cut this short. Let's finish the video. Actually, I'll wrap this up because I want to be disciplined on our time for this show. I didn't know this video, and I'll give you last thoughts. We don't have to look at Twitter for this one.
The only existing apartheid state in the world, where Palestinian Arabs are systematically deprived of their rights by the Israeli government, police force, and military. Academic Vincent Bevins pointed this out in a post that I retweeted this morning. The reason why Ireland and South Africa are so outspoken against Israel is because those countries know what colonization and apartheid is like. South Africa had a long and arduous struggle against apartheid, and Ireland had a long struggle against British colonialism. So when they see Israel repeating those same colonial and oppressive actions, they're quick to speak out against it. And politicians like Fetterman, who are having their pockets lined by the Israeli lobby, would just like South Africa and Ireland to shut up and sit down. But that's not going to happen because not all of us are okay with apartheid like you, John. Even if I was getting paid by the apartheid state like you, I'd still stand against it. That's what it means to have principles and a spine and a backbone, which you know nothing about. Also, remember when I said that John Fetterman was a fraud when he first came on the scene and a bunch of TikTok leftists attacked me. Said, no, Fetterman's awesome. He's a serious progressive. He's anti-war. He's pro-working class. Yeah, no, he's not. He never was. He's a career politician. He's corrupt.
Oh, big shout out to Eddie, Midwestern March, friend of the show. We had him on multiple times. We're gonna have him on Nick and Night here very, very soon. They was attacked as well for speaking out against Fetterman. Once again, just like Cat Williams. I relate to that Cat Williams shit so much because RBN do Dissidence, Midwestern March. We out here telling the truth and people hated us for it. And this is my last kind of joke bit I put on this John Fetterman thing, and I'll give you last thoughts and we get out of here. This is what I said. I'm glad this got a lot of likes because I wasn't sure when I posted this because I got a dark sense of humor in a lot of different ways. But at least it went over well. I said this is the first time in human history where everyone is rooting for depression to win. So if it makes you feel better, because I've been through depression as well, I would wish it on my worst enemy. I wish on John Fetterman. He struggled with depression. Maybe you should support genocide, Fetterman. Maybe you shouldn't have this much evil in your soul.
Right.
So that's why I said, if depression is going to take anyone, let it take people who support genocide. That's what I'm going to say. I'm not PC, guys. I am not a PC guy. I am not the guy you guys want to run for office.
Speaking of not PC, my tweet got limited visibility when I tweeted out that video.
Oh, I saw that.
You saw that. I was wondering do you run the RBN account or the CJ?
I don't run. I got too much stuff going on. I can't run.
Oh, okay. Because I know it got retweeted by the RBN account. I didn't know if that was you or CJ who did that. But yeah, I mean, look, I won't get your channel in trouble by repeating it, because if it was too hot for Twitter, it's obviously too hot for YouTube, so I won't say it. But yeah, my take on that got limited visibility for violating some, rule of manners. But despite that, it still got about 5,000 views because people enjoyed it. But yeah, it's funny because you mentioned how your take on that was anti-PC. It was the first tweet of mine that's ever gotten punished in some way.
I actually saw it, believe it or not. It was limited, but I was like, damn, they limited it? That's crazy. I saw that, so yeah. I'm surprised I didn't get in trouble for it. I'm going to get in trouble one day. I need to chill out. Anyway, I think we can end here. But you got to see Fetterman sharers experience battling depression and seeking treatment in emotional interview. Boo-hoo. Maybe you shouldn't be a fucking sellout. Maybe that does something to your soul, Fetterman. Maybe selling out to the Israeli lobby does something to your soul. Maybe being a sellout, a politician. Like he was a lieutenant attorney, something like that. Some fucking position, lieutenant general, something like that before. Like he been a sellout. So
I mean, if I supported mass murder just for the simple reason that I got paid to support mass murder, that would take a toll on my psyche and my emotional well-being.
yeah,
You know, it feels good to oppose mass murder out of a sense of, like, I don't know, humanity. Like that's good for the soul.
depression is a motherfucker, man. And it's hard to fight, but this is the first time in human history where the masses are wishing for depression to win this battle. Because John Fetterman should be in the Hague. Like, when you look at what he's saying, what he's supporting, he's a criminal. I view everyone in our ruling class as criminals. Like, I had the phone, and I said before, I had a viral tweet. I said, I think it's healthy to hate your oppressors. Yeah, and they've been pushing this on us our entire life. Love your enemies, forgive your enemies, as they bomb the fuck out everybody.
Right.
Violence is never the answer, as they tear gas us and beat our ass with the police. So I'm like, at what point do we stop listening to these people and realize they're not giving us advice with our best intention at heart? It's good for your mental health to hate your enemies, because hating your enemies is self-love. There are a lot of self-hating Negroes that don't hate their enemy because they believe that we should be oppressed. I see what you guys did to my people. I see what you guys did to the Palestinians, and I have the right to hate you for that. It's healthy, right? But this is why we scare a lot of people. We don't scare Keaton away. Our friends that do dissidence, we greatly appreciate. Always fun having the conversation. I want to give you all in time. I don't want to take too much of your time in the evening.
No, you're good.
A little bit longer than I wanted to, but maybe an hour generally. I would love to have you on as regular. I'm trying to build up like a regular class. I already got a lot of people on here, so it was great to have you back on, Keaton. You guys are killing it. Congrats. I love to see people thrive, especially if they thrive telling the truth. Like I wanted to see the social democrat, weak, spineless, effeminate left the throne. And I think Savvy Sad and Dissidence have done that. Like, not to boost you up too much, but you guys are crushing Callan them. Like, and you guys got no TYT boost. You guys wasn't boosted by the algorithm by these people, already destroying them. Like Cal and David Doe, these people, they can chop up a 5-minute video where they rehearse shit. But have you seen their live numbers? Bro, Rational National live numbers are garbage. When you look at him out in descriptions, Dissidence and Savvy kill it. They beat them all the time, and you love to see it. So I'm very happy to see how well your channel doing. Now I hope we have you back on again. Any last words? Anything else you want to plug, Keaton?
No. Thank you so much. You know, you guys had us on your show and started featuring us, you know, back when we were pretty tiny. And so, you know,
we saw the
owe
vision.
A lot of that to you. Yeah. So no, you guys have been absolutely awesome to us. And so we're happy to pay it forward and certainly pay it back. So yeah, I will come on whenever you need me.
Yeah, appreciate it. Hope you guys had a good night. I know there was a long episode. Once again, for the Nick at Night evening shows, I'm planning them to be like 60, 75 minutes. We had a lot of cover. They dropped that the Yemen bombing. I was like, oh fuck, this is about to be a chaotic ass stream. What the hell am I gonna do with this outline already planned? But anyway, thank you, Keaton. I'm gonna drop you in the back. I'm gonna read a few super chats I missed. I'm gonna make sure I check and make sure I haven't missed any. I should say. Not sure we have any. I just want to check. Here's an off-topic question. Make sure you guys check out Dissidence. I know you probably already have. They've been hosting Jimmy all week, doing a great job. Russell is such a natural at presenting news. I grew up with a speech impediment, and I never thought I was going to do this, so I'm surprised a lot of people listen to me, to be honest. Thanks for the $5. Extremists Explained. This is an off-topic question. Why are people not talking about neo-Nazi terrorists in Russia and Ukraine that have connections to Europe, America, and Europe? I'm not sure about the Russia part, but I know, once again, the neo-Nazis in Ukraine have connections with white supremacist groups in the United States. That's why the DHS was worried about a surge of black market of guns with neo-Nazis, and they're going to bring the guns that was sent to Ukraine back to the United States, back to Brazil. There was a lot of white supremacists and a lot of neo-Nazis that volunteered and traveled to Ukraine, because black community, we always knew that like Ukraine, that's like the white supremacist neo-Nazi capital. So that's something we've been talking about. I don't know about the Russia part you're talking about, but there's a big Banderite problem in Ukraine that we definitely highlighted if you are new to the show. Because of Israel, Gaza, I haven't covered Ukraine as much as we did because there's so much, man. I cut 2 stories tonight, but we'll be back on Saturday. I think this is the last one I missed. Thank you, Andrew, for the 100 MX. ICJ's final ruling on genocide will take 3+ years, but they can issue provisional measures within a couple weeks that can demand Israel ceasefire and let in aid for the duration of the court case. Thank you, Andrew. We are still learning. That's a great piece of information. I think I'll do with the super chats. This is the second week at Nick at Night, season 2. Hopefully, you guys enjoying this program. I usually bring on one-on-one interviews. Got a lot of stuff to cover on these shows. More foreign policy based, more theory based. I'm not, as you guys say, I'm not PC. I have a hard time holding back. That's why I'm blacklisted from a lot of shows. That's why our YouTube channel has been shadow banned as well. Ever since October 7th, our views was cut in half because we were kind of rough around the edges on stuff like that. So if you want to subscribe, like, and share, that helps us beat the algorithm crushing us. Like CJ ran the numbers. Ever since October, our numbers was cut in half. You guys see it. Like the numbers you see tonight, it was a good showing, but we was getting these numbers earlier this year. They gave us a strike on bullshit. Ever since we got that strike, they cut our number in half. Then they cut it in half after October 7th. So I'm like, let's do the best show I can do. Hopefully I can do an informative show that you guys enjoy. So you guys be proud to share RBN. You know what I mean? Hopefully you guys are proud to share our RBN. Help us break this insane, like me and CJ talk about me. We never seen YouTube fuck our channel up like this. You guys leave comments about stuff you guys see. So the only way we break it is if you guys help share. If you guys are aware of our schedule, that's why I'm trying to have a more consistent schedule. Every evening, well, not every evening, Tuesday and Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern, I'll be live. And Saturday, I'm gonna do 3 Saturdays a month, Nick at noon. So I'll be back Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And by then, there's gonna be a lot of developments regarding the ICJ, regarding this insane shit. I can't wait to get offline and see like new developments on the Yemen bombing. Like that's just crazy. We are living crazy time, my friends. This is a good time to subscribe because we're gonna tell you guys the truth you don't get on corporate media. Thank you guys for checking us out. Have a good night, guys. Take care.